I was diagnosed to have terminal cancer a few months ago, and naturally there's a lot of fear and anger and pain, emotional pain that surrounds something like that. It has allowed me to open up and have communication with my family that I have never been able to have before.
This morning, the Drug Enforcement Administration is announcing its intention to place the drug known as MDMA, or by the street name Ecstasy, under emergency controls in Schedule 1.
There were trials where a DEA administrative law judge heard hours and hours of testimony and made the decision that Schedule 3 made the most sense. It would be a prescription medicine and there would be a lot of restrictions on it, but it would be much, much easier to do clinical research with it. But the DEA did not take its own administrative law judge's recommendation, and they went ahead and put MDMA in Schedule 1. And, what's interesting is MDMA has been in Schedule 1 for 25 years now, and it's, just as easy to get as it's ever been, if not more. I mean, it's become a very popular drug of abuse. Millions of people around the world are taking this drug recreationally. I mean, one thing that you see is that when you're taking sort of a known quantity of a known substance in a medical setting or a therapeutic setting, it's very safe. Because this drug is illegal, when somebody buys ecstasy, they may be getting MDMA or they could be getting any number of chemicals that are not bad for you or horribly bad for you. Because of prohibition, the issue of drug substitution and counterfeit pills and things like that is very much an issue.
That's one of the problems with the way drugs are approached in this society. Kids don't learn about using these things in a safe and wise way.
When MDMA first came into public awareness, the government officials were calling it another hallucinogenic amphetamine. And I knew a lot about what the structures of hallucinogenic amphetamines look like. And I thought, it doesn't make sense that that's a hallucinogen. My laboratory actually published the first biochemical work on MDMA in 1982, before anyone even called it ecstasy or knew what it was. We showed that it released serotonin. Amphetamines themselves, amphetamine or methamphetamine, release principally a dopamine, a transmitter called dopamine, and also norepinephrine, but also release a certain amount of serotonin. MDMA has mostly its effect on serotonin. It releases serotonin, but also releases norepinephrine and also releases dopamine. So in some respects, it's working like methamphetamine, but the profile is somewhat reversed.
MDMA is not a hallucinogen. It really is unique in psychiatry. There's no other drug like it. Because it is this massive serotonin agonist, it basically floods the synapse or floods the brain with serotonin. It's almost like an immediate-acting antidepressant or an immediate-acting anti-anxiety medicine. They're called anxiolytics. Something that decreases anxiety is an anxiolytic. And in psychiatry, all the anxiolytics are sedating. So there is no immediate-acting, non-sedating anxiolytic in psychiatry. But MDMA is an immediate-acting, non-sedating anxiolytic. 30, 45 minutes after somebody takes MDMA, most people become very relaxed and happy and content. They're also awake, alert, completely conscious, cognizant of everything that's going on. They have enhanced memory for the experience, and there's also enhanced memory for early repressed traumas. So it's particularly well suited to psychotherapy, to being a catalyst for psychotherapy.
We see it right now for post-traumatic stress disorder, for veterans coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq. There's a great need for treatments that the current medications, the current psychotherapies, only work partially and only work in certain subjects. So the need is growing for the psychedelic medicines.
One of the problems with treating PTSD is that people either have too much anxiety or too much emotional numbing in order to be able to revisit the trauma in a therapeutic way. And what MDMA seems to do is to allow people to face their fears without being overwhelmed, but yet have an emotional connection. We just recently completed what's called a phase 2 clinical trial of MDMA-assisted therapy, psychotherapy for treatment-resistant post-traumatic stress disorder. We would encourage them to spend a good bit of the time focusing inward without talking. And we had headphones with a program of music and eye shades. We had an agreement with everyone that if nothing about their trauma came up, then we could bring it up, but we never had to do that. It always came up spontaneously, but not necessarily right away. We encourage people to be open to the idea that kind of their own inner healing intelligence would bring whatever experience needed to come. It seems that MDMA helps people stay in that, what's called an optimal arousal zone.
So one other unique thing about MDMA is that it induces, in most people, sort of a heart opening and a sense of connectedness and empathy with other people. That may be because it enhances oxytocin release in the brain, a hormone that is involved with bonding. So I suppose in a world where more people were undergoing MDMA-assisted psychotherapy, you would have more people who were happy and relaxed and more trusting of other people and more caring and more empathic.
My take on it in general is that it somehow allows access to an experience that is a kind of fundamental, inherent capacity that people have. People seem to have more empathy for others and for themselves. It seems as if it removes the obstacles to accessing that sense of empathy.
In the old time, you could go for 10 years for meditation, and then once, if you were lucky on the way, you would realize, that's what Jesus or Buddha meant. Now you can do it in 6 hours in an ecstasy. It will not keep, but you get the insight. And if then you are serious, you can start to work with that insight. But first, the door has to open.
It would not be the best use of it if people get the idea that the only way you can feel better is to take the drug again. I think that gets into a pattern that's not useful.
Psychedelic is a beautiful help to open the door as long as you are ready to accept. It is not the solution.
It's an interesting compound, and we need to know more about it. We need to understand the risks and benefits. And the only way you're really going to understand it is to do clinical research.